Hi there. This presentation deals with what I call the satanic law, which is my own interpretation of Satanism as I perceive it and have perceived it for many, many years of study. And uh, but it also concerns Gnosticism as a spiritual path or even a way of life, uh, modern modern Gnosticism anyway, because because one wants to challenge, because in challenging the satanic law, the Gnostic comes to some very interesting conclusions about life, the universe, and everything. Um, I mean, the satanic law is very interesting. You've probably all read it by now. I am what I want. And the thing about satanic law is they say when you strip it all down, when you strip away all the hypocrisy of conformity, and when you strip away, when you really get down to brass tacks, this is what it is. I am what I want. And what I want is the good. And I will do whatever is good for me. And I will do good unto others, that is, provide for their wants as far as I can, if it is in my interest to do so. And this is basically the law, the satanic law, the law of self, the law of strength, the law of the will to power, basically. Because when you're doing what you want to do, you feel good about yourself on a very, very fundamental level. And I suppose the other thing to put here is I will do whatever is pleasurable to me, ultimately. I will do whatever is pleasurable to me. And this is the law of the individual, individualism, which is a cult of life now, the cult of individualism. Um, but the collective has a great answer for this. It is in your interest to conform to what we want you to do because you want reward and approval, and you don't want disapproval and punishment. And since you yourself have said you want what is pleasurable, reward and approval are pleasurable, and disapproval and punishment are painful, unpleasurable. So basically, Satanists, by and large, in my meeting of them, are the most conformist people you ever want to meet. And all this, death metal and blah, 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 blah. They actually want to be conformist because they realize that, in fact, they have to do what society tells them to do ultimately, because they want pleasure, not pain. So they don't want punishment or disapproval. And all this, all this kind of I'm a tough individualist is all show. It's all huff and puff and a lot of smoke and mirrors and all this death metal stuff. They're not rebellious at all. Um, I mean, as you know, I've had a lot of run-in with YouTube. I am what I want, and I want to say what I want. Because, as it says on Facebook, what's on your mind? So when I express what's on my mind, YouTube, for example, doesn't like it. And I can see why. It's not YouTube that doesn't like it. They want the money. And of course, you see, if you have a video, right? And the video is has a advert in front of it or an advert banner underneath it or beside it. Obviously, if that video is saying the N word or the C word or N and C word together, the advertisers take great umbrage at this because they don't want their product or service associated with people saying the N word or the C word. Because corporations are pretty sensitive about N word and C word. It doesn't, it's outside their corporate policy. They got to pretend that they're concerned about women's rights and the rights of of persons of color. They're not really give a damn about it really, but they got to pretend. So obviously, they take great umbrage at a video which disturbs, and so therefore they get YouTube to have these community guidelines. And community guidelines are there to ensure that YouTube can form, to ensure that the advertisers write the checks, which keep the servers going, which keep this whole network going. So obviously, I want to say what I want to say, but if I do say it, ultimately I get deplatformed. And that brings me pain to be deplatformed. So to avoid the pain of being deplatformed, I have to not actually say what I want to say. Um, and sometimes I want to say stuff to trigger people and to get people angry. A bit like the guy Danny from Social Experimentalist. He megaphones people on the street, and he disturbs people. He makes people angry. He makes my wife angry. He makes my wife so angry she wants to go and punch him in the face. And she's supposed to be a nice person with a nice, she's quite friendly and sort of pacifist and all that. But Danny of Social Experimentalist, a channel on this YouTube, she makes him want to go and kill him, because she says he's a bully with his megaphone. He bullies people, but all he's really doing is winding people up. But he's doing it for a purpose. Ultimately, I think he's on the side of the angels because, like a sort of Zen master, he wants to upset people's worlds, and he wants to get people to think he's a gadfly. He's a bit like Socrates, really, but he's not as intelligent as Socrates, unfortunately. That's the big difference there. And or maybe he is, and maybe he just wants to pretend to be stupid. I think a lot of the times there's this common thing now. People want to pretend to be stupid and to be common in order to appeal to the common man. And I always thought that Donald Trump was pretending to be stupid, whereas in fact he's really, really intelligent and really astute and really cunning. But in fact, he really, really is as stupid as he makes out, which is a bit unfortunate because before I thought, he's only pretending to be stupid. He's actually a really, really smart person. But perhaps he is a really, really smart person, and he really, 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 it's all completely just a front. Anyway, be that as it may. Um, as far as the satanic law is concerned, the main thing to challenge, as far as Gnosticism and Buddhism is concerned, modern Gnosticism is really quite influenced by Buddhism, I think, is I am what I want. Because the metaphysics is I am in fact not what I want, I am soul, and I'm in love with God. And so I have everything I want in that sense. But at the same time, the Satanists will reply instantly, well, that's not really true, is it? Because in this world, you have lots of wants. You have lots of basic needs, human rights, the right of free speech, which YouTube doesn't respect, for example. But I mean, because of money. So in this world, you've got lots of wants, things that you want and things that you don't want, and you are pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain like every sentient being on this world. So in fact, when you say, well, I've got everything I want, I love God, and I'm soul, that's a load of poppycock, isn't it, really? And this cynicism will either drive you mad and make you kind of worse, make you more of a punk rocker than before. Or it just means that you will say, well, yeah, okay, I like pleasure, I don't like pain, I will do what is pleasurable, I will avoid pain, like every other sentient being. I have got my wants and needs, economic, sexual, political, a need for approval, whatever, peer pressure. That's how I respond to peer pressure. And in other words, mea culpa, maxima. I am a sinner. I admit I am a sinner. I may be soul and I may be in love with God, but by God, I've got loads of wants and desires and needs, which are pretty basic, sexual being one of them. And as even Paul said, "I've got a thorn inside my flesh," which probably meant he was gay. But I mustn't practice being gay because that's disapproved of by my Jewish faith. So I've got a problem there. For example, I want to be gay, but I can't be gay because my religion disapproves of it, and I want to do what my religion and my God approve of. So obviously, I've got a problem there. But at the same time, Gnostics say, well, okay, all this is true, mea culpa, I'm a sinner. I've got lots of thoughts which are non-conformist thoughts and selfish thoughts and thoughts of a fairly beastly nature, which I only just about keep from acting on. It's a struggle every day. But I can go into a state of mind where I transcend all my wants, even God, uh, because if I want God, that's something I want, and I am not what I want, I am soul. So I can go into a soul awareness where I transcend all the words. I transcend the word soul, the verb want, to want, and the word God. I transcend it all. And in this state, something happens which is miraculous, whereby I am cleansed, if not saved, from all my sins. And you know, you may say, well, in everyday life you're going to sin. That's very true. I can't deny that. Mea culpa. I'm not denying that. But I am in the process of transcending my wants and disassociating myself from my wants um, because there is a world out there which doesn't consist of my wants, where I am not what I want, I am soul, and where I am soul, a different lot of criteria will apply. And you won't want things in the soul sphere, in heavenly realms of transcendence. Or if you do want things, it's not how we understand the verb to want or to have. And as I said, in this world, there are two tragedies, aren't they? One is not having what you want, and the other is having it. Because if you have what you want, you want something else, or you want something better, or you want more of what you want, more of what you have, and that's when the problem begins, isn't it? I mean, often I think in the internet, and I've had this problem as well, is that you want more and more. So you want to express yourself on the internet, and you want to express yourself more and more and more, and it all gets darker and darker and darker, and more punky and more mad, until YouTube YouTube deplatforms you. And so obviously there are limits to what you want and limits to what you can have, because other people don't like what you want to say. In fact, when it all gets down to it, and so that's a tragedy. You have what you want, and you're not satisfied. So in both cases, you don't have what you want, and you do have what you want. You're dissatisfied. As the Buddha said, dukkha, 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 which is dissatisfaction. Dukkha means dissatisfaction, and you can't get no satisfaction in this world. I am what I want, and I can never get enough of what I want. But I think when you realize that you can transcend I and want and soul and God, all these ideas, into one sort of mystical state of mind, once you realize that, you can say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put a limit on what I want. I'll put a limit. I am what I want, but I'll put a limit on it. I'll limit my self identity to A, B, and C, which will be enough to, live simply that others might simply live, for example. And so, yes, mea culpa, but I'm going to live within self imposed limits, as it were, because I can't be everything that I want. I don't even know what it is I do want half the time or most of the time. And when I do have what I want, I don't want it anymore. I want something else or something more, something different. So my I is myself. Myself is actually sort of um, dispersed over this sphere of wantingness, if you see what I mean. Whereas if I limit my wants and I limit my the scope of my I-ness, if you like, then I can then I can be a sinner, but I don't have to be some completely sociopathic, psychopathic sinner that's going to go around just goosing people and molesting people and just being a general pain in the ass. Because there's no need to go to that extent to prove that I am what I want. So I suppose in a sense there is a self-imposed limit to the satanic law, which is why a lot of Satanists say, it's not that bad. I'm if I say I am what I want, and what I want is the good, as long as it's limited to a certain extent, then that's okay. But the trouble is, where do you set the limits? And society's got all sorts of different limit points that it has said. So in the end, you just end up conforming. In the end, as far as YouTube's concerned, you don't express yourself. You don't actually say what you want to say. And of course, ultimately, you might not be allowed to say what needs to be said, um, and you might need to point out a wickedness, but YouTube won't let you say that, and that's the problem with having a commercially based network, because the advertisers might start limiting our free speech and forcing YouTube to conform to what they want. Um, and whereas if you have a state YouTube, for example, if YouTube was run by the state, then the freedom of expression will be sort of, as it were, enshrined in a kind of charter. But to me, it would mean you get loads of complaints about things. You could complain about a video, and you could respond to the video and could say this is a disgusting video and this is appalling and you shouldn't behave like this and this is out of order, this is wicked, and that would be your right of self-expression as well. But unfortunately, see, when you've got a commercial network, when you've got society run by big business, then a lot of freedoms that we currently enjoy go by the by. It's inevitable, unless, of course, the the people that are writing the checks to YouTube become so debased and depraved and wicked themselves that they don't care what their advert is associated with. But that isn't really an answer, because I don't want to. I want the advertisers to become like that, really, because there'd be no limit then to what people can do on YouTube. And everybody is sort of agreed that there kind of should be a limit to what can be put up on YouTube. Um, which again goes back to the community guidelines and the fact that the community guidelines are supposed to be based on what most people would consider to be decent, for example, or acceptable, politically correct. So we just go round and round in a big circle with this morality, ethics kind of question, and ethics and society. And people who are much, much more clever than me have looked at this question of morality in society for many, 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 many decades, if hundreds of years, in fact, thousands of years, go back to Aristotle and Socrates and Plato. And they're lots more cleverer than I am. So all I can really say is that on times you will you will have an experience that can be described as Gnostic, which will really take you out of all this mad worldly arena and this arena of definitions and moral argument, where you would just intuitively know the good, and you may not be able to define it, but you will intuitively know the good, and despite being a sinner, you can still, to a certain extent in this world, live by that good that you have actually experienced through gnosis. rather than argued philosophically. Because if you argue philosophically, counter arguments will arise up either within yourself or from other people, which is most annoying. We don't like that, but it's true. And we don't get any, we don't really get any further. So you need to break on through to the other side occasionally, and that experience will basically help you get through the day. Well, that's the theory anyway. Whether or not it actually works, I think it works on an everyday basis. I don't think it's going to be a sort of Gnostic experience ends all your troubles, sort of thing. Because I think your troubles will arise every day. So you have to contemplate transcendence every day in response.